Kick back, have a sit, turn it up, get your fix. Time to upgrade, augment, but stay real, this the naked patient. Come by, the doc is in, you'll understand why it's good to be Nick. Like a tattoo, these words stick. All net, never throwing up bricks. Let's grow together through the weather, we can make a dent. Authentic people sharing stories, hope that it clicks. No need to dress it up, this is real as it gets. Let's strip it down, this the naked patient, yeah.
All right, we're live. We just start. I don't do like welcome in. So, dude, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Right?
I'm in Jimmy's studio, and we record all of these in your studio. So it's a trek for you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it was great. I had to move about 4 feet.
Dude, this is 100th episode.
Congrats, dude.
Yeah.
When I first launched my podcast, I remember I sat down with Tim Ferriss, and he said that I believe it's 93% of the podcasts never get to an episode 16 or something like that. And I mean, it's less than 1% of 1% get to 100 episodes. So
the stats are wild. It's been such an interesting journey, especially like having a buddy like you who's had one. And then Mark McCormack started his right around the same time as mine. And he just went like gangbusters. Like he's double what I have because he's been releasing 2 a week. But it's been fun to see the different evolution of these shows and what they mean to different people. Like, I don't know, mine for me has become more like therapy sessions. Like I get so much more out of these podcasts than I feel like anybody realizes.
I don't think people realize how much you do get that, because when do you have a chance to just have an uninterrupted conversation where you're truly sharing something you want to be important, right? So you're willing to go deep, you're willing to talk about subjects that you otherwise might not even ever come up, and with people you probably would never sit down with. And so I agree, it's one of my favorite things is just having the conversations, because it truly is like some form of therapy kind of.
Oh, 100%. Like every time I come, I'm like, oh my gosh, I learned so much in that little 45-minute conversation. It's changed the way I practice. It's changed the way I approach my patients and the way I talk about plastic surgery.
Is that just getting their version of it, of like being like hearing their side of kind of the experience, or what?
Yeah. So this podcast started because I had a patient who was struggling. Like she had 4 rounds of skin removal after losing 100+ pounds, and she just still felt like I still don't like me. What is wrong with me? And after a bunch of conversations, like I know it's actually the most normal thing in the world to feel this way. And so that's where and I thought, let's do an Instagram live, or let's do some sort of conversation around it. And it became this thing. I was like, I'm going to do a podcast, and I'm going to talk about the emotional side of plastic surgery. There's already dozens of podcasts that do the nuts and bolts of surgery and the ins and outs, and I wanted it to be very emotional side of things. And we did that. Like the first 20 or so episodes, they were even like titled like what surgery the person had. But it became very obvious that what was most interesting was not the person's story, or not the person's surgery, but it was their story behind the surgery. And then it became people who just had stories, whether they'd had surgery or not. And the biggest thing that I have learned is plastic surgery does not change anybody. Only you can change you. And I have this really interesting job, right, where my job is very specific to perform external work on the physical body and to change your physical image. And that can help, but if you have not, if you don't love yourself already, changing something physically about you is not going to suddenly make you love yourself. And that's been like my biggest takeaway from this. And I now have patients that I will turn away from surgery if I don't feel like they have done any of that inner work and are ready for plastic surgery. And for better or worse, it's improved my practice.
Well, and you see so many people that it becomes this never-ending chase of what do they try to fix next in plastic surgery, right? And it's really sad. I remember, 10 years ago, I was dating this girl, and she already had I mean, just for lack of a better way to put it, really good boobs, like huge too, like probably too big, right? For her body. And she was going to go bigger because to her, she had this belief or this thought that like something that was the thing that she needed. It was like, oh my gosh. And she had never done the deep work about her divorce and the issues that way that happened. And, you know, I remember when but then you hear other people, one of the cool things about plastic surgery and some of these things that you're able to do, because I've just dated a lot of people. I've had a lot of these conversations, right? And you'd be shocked how many women have wanted to change for a part of their identity. Like it helps them in a lot of ways. So when women have trauma or they have, you know, sexual assault or some of these things that have happened to them, a lot of times they're trying to fix something or change something. And like you said, they need to do that inner work, but sometimes doing something to their body can actually help with that. I know I've had certain examples of women where their assaulters were saying things to them while they were doing it, and that is the part of their body they no longer wanted or liked because of the way it was talked about by the person that assaulted them.
Oh, 100%. So, I think that's an important point to bring up too, right? Is when I say you plastic surgery doesn't change you, there's not like a specific order that you have to go in with this. I have absolutely seen plastic surgery push people into being able to do that work, right? I've seen people who have enormous breasts and the rest of their body is large as well. And by doing a breast reduction that was really well, they suddenly found the motivation to work on the rest of their body and lose weight and get to the point that they wanted to.
Makes sense.
Like this particular patient that we started the podcast with, she had 4 rounds of surgery, had lost 100 pounds. Since then, like since these 4 rounds of surgery, she's lost another 100 pounds just through diet and exercise, and looks phenomenal. Looks, if you look at the before and afters that I have of her to now, like she looks better now than she did after I operated, because she's continued to just improve who she is and work on herself and work on that inner work.
Do you think part of the reason why you have this belief or this way of doing business is because it's your path? Like you've lost, 55 pounds now in the last 2 years?
At one point I was down 70. And I've since put on about 20 pounds of muscle. So
yeah, you're down, call it 50 pounds, and you're completely just like different. I put a post up the other day on my Instagram. I had people literally texting me like, WTF, like, how is this possible?
Who was that guy?
Yeah, Mike Conti said that. But your glow up has like been incredible, but you understand what doing the inner work does for your outer appearance. You are the poster child for your own practice. And it doesn't mean that you don't do Botox and you wouldn't do certain things or whatever, but you have done this very thing that we're speaking of, which is you've had to do the inner work, and you can see it outwardly more than you could even from the inward.
Oh, 100%. Like it's been this beautiful kind of hand in hand dovetail. As I have changed myself and done some of this work myself, I've started to incorporate that into my practice just because I know what it has meant to me and what it feels like to me, and so I want to pass that on to my own patients.
How's that looked at? Because I know doctors are told not to be emotional, not to get too attached or whatever. And I mean, dude, every time we're hanging out, it's 9:30 at night, it's 10 at night. You're taking texts from patients. I think every single time we've ever hung out, you're texting in the night because that's how you decided you want to do this. I think you care more than the average doctor. You've decided to do it with a more personal care. Is that frowned upon in the community that you're in, or are you a rare exception as far as how this works? I
don't know if it's frowned upon. I do think that it's I get a lot of people that will raise an eyebrow, like colleagues or who just said, "I don't know how you do that." And for me, it was I don't think it's this special thing where I just care more or do more. That was the way that made sense to me. I had a very good. He was my ex-wife's uncle, and that was the way he practiced medicine. Is every single one of his patients had his personal cell phone, and he just said, "This is for me the best way to work with my patients. They don't have to go through an answering service. They don't have to wait for me to call them back and explain it to some phone tree. They can just reach out to me directly." And for me, I think it helps. It's an efficiency thing, right? It doesn't get the story bogged down. And it also is just direct care to the patient. I think that's how it should be.
Well, I run the same thing as a coach. I got, 400 guys that I'm coaching, and they all have my personal cell phone number. So when anyone joins my program, the first thing I do is I send them a personalized message from my cell phone, and I say, hey man, you now have my number. If you ever get in an emergency or you need someone to talk to, use it. If it's a logistics issue, my team will be reaching out to you.
Yes.
Go through them, It's like, but if you get, if I want to be the call, and I am that call a lot, and those are my favorite things to be able to do. This is why I got into this. And so it's not like I had one the other night, I'm literally in bed, and I'd been actually having a day myself, like was still kind of, going through a little bit of like with my breakup and things like that, some things that had happened. And so I was having a pretty bad day, and it was 12:15 at night. And one of the guys in my program texted me and he said, hey man, I need a 3 a.m. friend. So I just called him right away, and he didn't answer. He goes, hey, I'm with my family. I can't answer right now. Can I call you in 30 minutes? I'm like, shit. So I'm already trying to go to bed, but I'm like, yeah, that's what I signed up for, right? This isn't happening every night.
Yeah.
So I just put my phone right by me and I turned it on so it would ring loud. And sure enough, about 30, 40 minutes later, and he thought he'd lost a couple $1 million with the being scammed and this thing. And he thought he was going to have to move his family. I mean, it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And all I did, and this is the beauty of it, dude, is I just listened to him.
Yeah.
I didn't have any answers. He didn't really know if it was for sure or not yet. I just said, well, you know what? And this was the cool part is, I think a lot of times we're afraid to be the 3 a.m. friend, or we're afraid to give our number because we think we have to have all these answers all the time. And all I said to him was like, he was making the monster bigger than it was. He kept going like, if this happens, then this happens, then this happens. And when you start playing that game, it becomes too big. You can't take all of the anxiety of it all, right? And so I just started kind of minimizing it a little bit more, not to make small of it, but I said, hey, well, there might be other options hey, maybe your wife won't react that way. Maybe you won't have to do this. And by the time we got done, he goes, dude, I feel a lot better. And I literally didn't say a thing other than just kind of trying to minimize the issue. And then I just said, you know what, dude, I'm still here. If anything else comes up tonight, call me back. I'll leave my phone on loud. Otherwise, let's update me tomorrow when you have a little bit more information. And, it worked. He hit me up the next day and he was good.
This is almost the exact same thing that I deal with. Most of the time, it's just a patient who's worried, nervous about something, the way something looks, and they just need me to say, looks great.
Yeah, or it's going to take 2 more weeks, or it's going to take another month before you're used to this, whatever, right?
Exactly. But at the same time, and this is a question I'll have for you too, you have to have boundaries around it as well. And there are a few times where I have had to say, like, hey, this is my personal cell phone, and this is for legitimate issues. Some of this stuff, let's talk about in clinic when I see you. That's few and far between. And then just like you said, logistics things, people will be like, great, I'd love to come in and see you tomorrow. What time works? I'm like, no idea, man. I don't do my scheduling, but here's the number to call. They will take care of you. So those kinds of boundaries are absolutely crucial to be able to do something.
Well, and I think just being smart enough to recognize what needs to be urgent and what's not, right? When he said, I need a 3 a.m. friend, that's code for
I'm in trouble.
Shit's hitting the fan. No, this is urgent. And so it's like, okay. Otherwise, I'm really good at either I just won't respond, or I actually just get back to people and say, hey, man, I'll check back with you tomorrow. If it's not urgent, one of the things I used to say as a real estate agent is people will treat you the way you train them. So I just tell people, hey, if you're ever in an emergency, I am your guy. I will drop anything. If it's not, I am definitely not your guy. I will get back to you tomorrow. There's 0% chance. I've had people well, hey man, I had one guy, it was about a month ago, same group that the other guy's in. And he's texting me and he's trying to get an answer to something. He says, hey man, I'll get back to you tomorrow. And he kept on calling and I just ignored it. And I finally said, hey, I will get a hold of you tomorrow. He goes, well, I really need to talk about this tonight. I said, no, you don't. It's not urgent. And that was it. And then I told him the next day, I said, hey, that's not going to happen again. I had to draw that boundary and just go, hey, that's not going to happen again. This is how this works. And he got it,
So this kind of segues perfectly into a question I want to ask you. Okay. So I was with some friends the other day and you came up. And one thing that I will say is find friends that talk good when you're about you, when you're not in the room.
It's everything.
And so the question came up around somebody said, explain, they wanted me to describe my friendship with you, why we have such a deep friendship. And the answer, immediately like that, I said, Jimmy is the friend who is there no matter what. When you need the guy, he is there. Like say what you want. We'll disagree on politics sometimes. We'll disagree about other things sometimes. But you are there at the drop of a hat if I need you. And I'll get just to give some examples. Some of these examples might make me a little bit emotional. In residency, I was in a car accident. Pretty significant car accident. And I've talked about it on the podcast before. And I was in Texas, ended up in the hospital. You had just gotten to Chicago for some sort of comedy thing that you were going to do. My dad, just for context, and this isn't a negative about my dad. This is just really to contextualize what it meant to me. My dad was in San Antonio, about 3 hours away. You were the first person at my hospital bed. Like, my wife obviously was right there, but I saw you before anybody else in my family, before anybody else that had been out of an accident. I don't think you even left the airport. You landed in Chicago.
Yeah, I had a message. I didn't even leave the airport, yeah.
And so those kinds of things, and there are so many other key moments that you and I have been able to be there for each other, either ups or downs, and that is really the heart of what our friendship is that ability to be there for each other. And so the question is, how do you do that? Because I know that I am not the only friend of yours that would say that exact same thing about you.
Sure. Well, and look, like there is some logistics things that favor me. I'm not going to lie. Like I chose a career real estate where my job was to be in touch with as many people as possible. That was part of my job. My job now as a men's coach is to be there for a lot of people. So part of it is I just have an extra 8 to 10 hours a day to pour into relationships in general. The second part, people always go, how do you remember everyone's names? And I said, you just have to honestly care. That's the best way I could put it. You just have to honestly care. Like, and then the third thing is like, it's the only way, it's how I share my love, right? Like the only way I know how to do that. And I am spread thin, but like if it matters and I know it matters to you, then I'm going to be there. And it's very rare I won't choose the friend over my own self, right? In fact, your bachelor party recently was one of the few times in my life, probably the first time I chose myself over essentially a close friend.
Sure.
I couldn't show up the way I needed to. I needed to spend that time by myself. And it was kind of cool because it was the first time but so part of that is just like, and I knew you didn't need me there. Like at the end of the day, like you had 15 people there. It wasn't a need for you in that moment. Like I know what's important, right?
Well, what's funny is that in that particular moment, we had some friends who were like, "What the hell? Where's Jimmy? Like he should be here." And I said, "No. I need you to understand that my friendship with Jimmy is good enough that I know if he's not there, there is a damn good reason."
Yeah. Well, I sent you a text just recently. We were talking about this because our friendship is so secure. That we get to pour into a lot of people. I mean, daily, people are telling you how much of a good friend you are for them. I get the same thing. And people always like, your very question, how do you show up for all these people? Well, part of it is I don't have any neediness around my main relationships, my main friendships. Like I know what our friendship is and it's never in doubt for me. There's no neediness. There's no selfishness in it. It's like, if you need something, I'm there. There's no expectation. I don't like if I had a birthday party last night and I sent you a text and I was like, hey, we just spent 2 days together, but if you can make it, wanted to know you're invited, having a little birthday dinner. Did not expect you to be there and you weren't. Like
no,
I would have been shocked if you were there. Like frankly, you know what I mean? But there's no neediness. It's not like I'm like, well, I wonder if he likes me less. I wonder if we're still as close as we were. Like I don't ever question with my main 5-6 friendships. That's never in doubt. And because I have that security in the friendship, I think I'm able to just show up the way that I'm supposed to. And it's not ever I'm not ever doing anything for the wrong reasons in this friendship. I'm not ever doing it because I'm trying to get something in return. It's just like, I want to be that friend for you. I want to show up that way. And so that's allows me to do that.
What would you say for guys who have not experienced that level of security in a friendship?
Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because I think, and here's the shitty part is a lot of people have been burned in friendships.
Yeah.
But this is part of like understanding a deeper friendship because we've had things where we felt like we were burned by each other. I remember the first time you bought a house and didn't use me. And I was like, what the hell, dude? Like,
we had to repair that together.
Yeah,
We did.
It's kind of messed up, I've been there for you, man. It's like, and you're like, okay, fair enough. Like, that's not the way this is going, or whatever. And you work through things, right? And you've had things where you're like, man, I don't like the way that Jimmy is showing up right now. But one of the things that we're willing to do, this is something that I talked about with Travis last night, is there just has to be an understanding in any relationship that you have to be willing to talk and be willing to hear things that aren't comfortable and be able to say things that aren't comfortable. And if you can have that level of relationship, I think that's how you get that security. We've had tough conversations. We've gone to blows.
Oh yeah.
Literally.
The only one.
We've had some serious things, but we trust each other now because I know that if I step out of line, you love me enough to pull me aside and go, hey, you're better than this. Or, hey, I'm concerned about you and here's why.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the same thing with you, right? Like, we've had moments, we've pulled you aside at my kitchen table and said, you know what, dude, you got a fucking drinking problem.
Yeah.
And we were worried. And with tears streaming down our face, we told you we needed you to stop or change it, right? And you've pulled me aside on a walk and said, dude, you're missing a few things you're not seeing, and it's a problem. And here's what I'm seeing. And I was like, shit, like I was missing it. And with my best friends, we're willing to have those tough conversations. This is the answer to that question.
Yeah.
We're secure in the friendship because we've been willing to call each other on hard things, and we know that it didn't affect the love. It actually strengthens the love. The relationships I struggle with the most are people that I know love me, but won't have those tough conversations.
Yeah.
So they have a problem with me, but then they just push me away instead of trying to dig into it, because I'm always wanting to communicate it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a level of like humility that I think I'm better at now than I used to be. I think I was harder to come to before, which is even more like the reason why I value people like you and Cameron and Travis that have had those, Jeremy, really difficult conversations with me in a time I wasn't as receptive. Mm-hmm. But that is the key to trusting the relationship. Like, have really difficult conversations, because most people, they're so freaking afraid of losing the friend that they won't say the uncomfortable thing. And by the way, I've lost multiple friends by saying the uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
But they weren't true friends. I didn't lose anything. I just exposed what it was. I was able to pour that energy into the friends that were true friends.
Yeah. I think when you don't have those difficult conversations, it creates a barrier there that like keeps it stuck in a superficial level.
It is. Yeah, it's just all surface.
Yeah.
There's a second part to it, though, and this just came to me. The second part of it is, if you trust your friends, it's really important as a guy to be trusted from people that you love. If you like, and you have to trust. So like, if you come to me and you say something, if I ignore it or don't pay attention to it or just don't listen at all or don't change anything, you start to lose a little bit of that trust. Because I'm like, I don't want to speak to deaf ears. So the second part of it is willing to have those conversations. The first part is that. The second part is you listen and you make the changes. If your friend loves you enough to call you and say, like, to your credit, from that day forward, you made changes.
Yeah, well, that was what is. You said that comment, and I wanted to go right back to that drinking problem issue, because it was not my friends say I have a drinking problem and I went sober. It was fair enough. I hear you, but I'm not ready to completely give it up because I don't think it's as severe as you guys think it is. Like Cameron was ready to send me to rehab facility, and I was like, hold on, I see where you were at. Let's figure out where I need to be. And 75 Hard was a huge help for me to kind of prove that, like, no, it's not as serious as my friends are concerned about it.
No, but you immediately did something about it.
For sure.
You didn't need to do, by the way, this is important. You didn't need to do what Cameron thought you should do.
Yeah.
But you paid attention to what he said and you acted on it.
Yeah.
Like, you did make changes immediately in your life. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, I don't want my friends giving me the solutions to what my problems are. Thanks. I'll figure out my own problems. But I'm willing to go, you know what? Nick just told me that. And, in April, when you came and saw me and, you had some things that you're worried about me about. And I was able to show you the problem I don't think is as big as you think it is. Here's like me just trying to, and you even were like, I don't care. I trust you. I was like, I know, but I need you to know that some of the things that you've heard aren't true. And here you go. And I was able to show you. But then part of it, I said, hey, and here's some things I need to do better and different. And I immediately started making those changes.
Yeah.
Right. And it was like, I needed to do it my way, but I needed a friend like you to call me out on some shit that I needed to be better at.
Yeah. What, so friendship kind of will lead us into a little bit of what talk, because we can't have you back on the podcast and not talk about What changes in, let's see, 100 episodes has taken me almost 2 years. Like, where do you see What, the evolution of What over the last 2 years? Like, what have been some of your favorite takeaways and some things that you would potentially do different moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are about to finish your program, 2.5 years. There's a couple things that I've learned. The coolest part about this is I actually spend at least an hour and a half a day studying myself. So I'm learning a lot as I'm doing this program. So for example, literally this morning, I was studying the shadow of the Father. I did one call with you guys on it, but I didn't understand it very well. And so I didn't really try to teach much of it. So I have been diving into this. And now I have 5 or 6 exercises I learned from some other coaches and some things. So the second Ludus, instead of going to the ninja gym and, dicking around one of the nights, I'm spending 3 hours going deep in this, where everybody gets to look at how their relationship with their Father affects themselves. They're going to share it with each other. We're going to just do a little bit more healing that didn't get done. So the biggest takeaway I've had, to my point of this, is I think I've done a hell of a job of creating FOMO, of making it fun, and of making the bonds like the opportunity for friendships to be created. Nobody will dispute that. That's the beauty of What. What I haven't done as good of a job of is making the guys do the work in the moment, because I thought that if I give you assignments, you would do it. And the people don't. They just don't. They don't. And at least not in What. And I don't think they do in any. People don't like homework.
Dude, this is life.
It is. So they don't want to do the homework. So I'm taking more time at the events. I'm bringing in less guest speakers that were fun, and they were like famous, and they were big influencers, and it gave credibility to the program. But I want to do more deeper work. I want to have more guys start to do. So every single event, what I keep feedback I keep getting is, Jimmy, we actually want more of you. We want you to teach us more. And so it's even part of me losing my own imposter syndrome and going, I need these other guys. I actually don't think I do. This is my program. And I've done this work. And so now so each Ludus, I'm going to have, instead of bringing in 3 or 4 guest speakers, I'm going to go 3-hour deep dives. So we'll do one of the Luduses. We'll do the, like I said, the next one they're doing is this work with their Father and things like that. And so that has been a thing I'm excited about that I'm adding in. The program was a little bit too long. I tried to, dude, and here's the beauty of, one of the guys gave me a compliment that I'll kind of share because I love it. He said, dude, it was Brad Crofel, and he said, I've never met somebody that will try something and be so unattached to it, even though it's their idea. You're so willing to let your thing be wrong, fail, and just move on from it. He goes, people don't do that. And so the thing I've tried to do really well is like, dude, I mean, how many things can we name that I did wrong in this program? The drum circle lady and freaking different guest speakers that came on. And you're just like, one of them came on with an alter ego and never broke character. I just was like, what is happening? But I'm willing to try things and just go, that did not work, and move on from it. And so I've Catwoman, there's a million different things I could go into. But the point is like,
sad I missed her.
I think I'm just really willing to try something. And then if it doesn't work, I'm like, cool, let's adjust. And so that's the main thing that I've been trying to do. And I think I know that the group can only evolve as much as I do.
Yeah.
So I've really been doubling down on doing this work for myself. And I've always done this. For 20 years I've done this. But the last 9 months, I have been doing so much work on my own stuff. And it's stuff that's not fun. It's looking in the mirror and staring at yourself in the eyes, and you have to tell yourself what you see for 10 minutes straight, or what you feel for 10 minutes straight. Or it's doing these breath exercises where you have to close one nostril and do the other. And it's just grounding work. And writing out, I did one exercise recently. It was a breakup from when I was literally like 23 or 24, and I never fully processed the emotion of it. I went right into dating and just masked it with going out with 50 other girls. And so I had to go down and sit back. I had to write a letter about my emotions and write it all out. 2 pages worth of this. And then I had to do that same exercise 4 days in a row. Mm-hmm. And I've basically just brought on these people that, I find people and I like how they teach something about your nervous system or something about, embodiment work or whatever it might be. And I'm like, oh, I want to do that. And so I've been doing these things. And each time I do these exercises, I can feel myself being better at not being as reactive and being more responsive, for example, or different things like that. And so for me, it's as I continue to evolve, I'm bringing the best stuff back to the group and helping them evolve with it.
Yeah. One thing you said, so yesterday was your 43rd birthday.
Yep.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And I love that you do this because I can't remember how long you've done this. How long have you done the 43 things I learned, 42 things
I do
learned?
it every couple of years. I switch it up a little.
Yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I sent out, I think on my 38th birthday, I sent out 38 gifts to my 38 closest friends.
Yeah.
And then some years I'll just do 40 things I learned on my 40th birthday, stuff like that.
Yeah, so this one, 43 things I learned. And there's one particular in there that I would like you to expound on because I thought it was very profound. And it was one woman will give you more love than 1,000.
Oh, you'll get more love from one woman than from 1,000. Yeah. This one hits deep, right? When we all want to be loved. It's the two fears that everybody has. We're not good enough. We're not lovable, right? Like we all have it. It plays into everybody's life. And I've been on over 1,000 first dates. I have felt some form of love from probably 1,000 different women. And I felt loved by one woman, and I've had that a couple times. And without a doubt, and it's not even close, Nick, you will get more love. You will feel more true love from one person that loves you unconditionally or deeply than you'll get from 1,000 fans, admirers, or random women.
Yeah.
And it's just so easy to see it now. But there's, I think I'm hesitant to talk about my journey in some ways because I think it gives off a lot of false ideas of the right way to do life. And I think that goal needs to, I've been doing this work right now, and this all kind of ties, but about not being a boy anymore, frankly. And so as an adult, if we want to do this work, again, I've been studying the shadow of the father and all this stuff, so it fits. But you have two things you want to do is as an adult, I want to talk to my adult of the things that person needs to do differently. And then as an adult, I want to go talk to the boy that still runs a lot of my life. All of us, until we heal the boy inside of us, that boy runs a lot of what we do. Our relationships, the way we act, the way we are around finances, the way we work, the way we show up in life, a lot of the things we do wrong. And so one of those ideas is to go back earlier or be able to go quicker and to be able to heal that boy and say, dude, whatever you're trying to do to feel validated, you didn't get enough love as a kid from the feminine or whatever it was for you. If I can heal that quicker, I no longer am going to seek the admiration of these 1,000 women because it's a false thing. It doesn't serve you. The goal of it truly is I think not even the goal, just man is happiest when he has that one person that he loves deeply and loves him. You're just going to feel more loved. And so that's why I put that on there. And I say it now quite a bit because I want people, and I can say it because I know I've had it, and you will feel more love. It's not even close. It's not even the same ballpark. You'll feel more love from one than you'll get from 1,000.
Yeah. And it's so, especially in today's world with Tinder and Bumble and all of these other things, it's so easy to just constantly look at the next and onto the next.
And all that is masking doing the work.
100%.
All it is. Anytime you're just going out, dude, something flipped in me this last relationship I was in, and I'm forever grateful for her because something finally flipped where I no longer want to spend any time with anybody I can't fully see myself being with forever. And that had not happened, tell her, if I'm being honest. I still always was girl's hot, let's talk to her, let's whatever. It was that was the barrier of entry to be in Jimmy's world. You know what I mean? It was pretty shallow, if we're being honest. And something's flipped. And it's now it's no, I want to be so much more intentional and so much more deliberate with who gets my time and attention and not being distracted anymore. And I think that's part of just healing that boy that was running the software, frankly, which is me.
Yeah. For me, I had this cool experience with Haley the other day because it is when you get into a relationship like that and you have that mindset, anything that comes up in the relationship, it's almost not even a trial or a problem. It's just more onion layers that you're peeling back from this person that you really love. And so we spent our weekend in Park City this last weekend, and this was the fourth weekend in a row that Haley and I had not been together. Just scheduling stuff. She had a retreat, I had a WOT retreat, then we had this, and it just worked out that way. And when you have the schedules that she and I have, our weekends are pretty precious to us. Sure. And so to have 4 in a row not go together was tough. And so I come home Saturday night after UFC fights, and the whole way home, I'm texting, and I think I'm coming home to a wife who has like just missed me horribly for 2 days, and frankly, I'm probably getting lucky before I go to sleep. And I get in bed, and I can tell like, and she was still a little bit sleepy, and she's waking up as I got there, and all of a sudden, like I knew something was way off, and Haley is a very, very stoic woman, and I just was like, what is going on? She's like, I don't know. And I said, no. Something is off. What is going on? And then for the next 10 minutes, she just lost it, sobbed uncontrollably. Has never, ever done that, or that I have seen ever since I've known her. And she kept apologizing for like this emotions that were coming up, and she's like, I don't know what this is. It's a million different things. It's you being gone for 4 weekends. It's Trump stuff. It's politics stuff. It's people talking shit about us on Reddit. It's like so much stuff coming up all at once. And for me, it was just like, thank you. This is just another part of you that I get to like experience and be there for and love, and it's okay. This isn't like suddenly, oh shit, Haley's got emotions. We better retool this relationship, or I better look for somebody with less emotions. It's her. It's this woman that I love, and it's another part to her that I get to experience and see.
Yeah, I mean, that's the gift that the masculine gives the feminine, right? Is holding that space and not being pushed off from their emotions. And it's very difficult to not take it pretty. That's why you have to keep doing your own work, because when it comes up, the more you can allow that, you know, the woman to just express herself, the more trust and safety she has in that. And that's, you know, for me, that's the test I've failed in the past, like not taking that personally, or not feeling hopeless or defeated or frustrated, right? It's being able to go like, I'm feeling your emotions, and I'm right here, and I'm taking them, and you're safe to share them, and not running from them. And it's just easier said than done, but that's the work that I think the more the man has done that work, you're not taking it personal, right? And you're able to, because that's where you get a woman to fall into her feminine if you can do it.
Oh yeah. It was funny because I didn't know. 2 years ago, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have internalized it. It would have been something that was my fault.
I can't believe she's mad at me because she's not I'm doing this to make our marriage better.
Exactly.
Like, these are my closest friends. Like, I've been friends with them since I was 12. Like, you know,
it's funny, and it had nothing to do with that.
It's the first time I've ever gone to a UFC fight. You know,
it's not that great, by the way,
dude. Bored out of our minds, but hey, it's another story.
And here's I think an important step too. The next day, so the whole time this is happening, I'm just like, I'm here for you. I got you. Whatever you need. And the next day, we revisited, you know, and she said, thank you for allowing me to do that. And I said, absolutely. And I said, what can I do different? What can I do next time? How? And we had a conversation around it. And it was, I don't know, just this constant stream of communication of how we're doing, how we handled things. That, I think, is what people so often miss.
Well, which, by the way, I went to that Tony Robbins seminar last October in Maui around your sex life. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like, what did you like? What didn't you? But we're so nervous to have the conversation. It feels so damn personal, right? So in all parts of your relationship, if you can share it in a way that's non-threatening and communicate it, you can improve it. And the way that he talked about it, I've shared this a little bit before, but just as an example, because that is the conversation, that next day conversation that's going to make the difference. You both get to improve. You know, I read this thing the other day. It's like we get into relationships and we get mad when people aren't good at holding space for us or having the conversations, but you have to learn in the relationship. So like if you have this expectation that the person should already know, you're just going to break up and end up in a bad spot. This is something I've had to learn that I probably should have been better at, you know, in my last relationship and plenty of my relationships. So it's like, no, dude, in the relationship, you're going to learn. Like stick in it, realize they don't have the tools. They absolutely suck at this. That's okay. You're going to learn it together. You guys are going to figure this out. But getting those tools is cool too. That's part of why I love my program. Is one of the things I discovered early on is like guys don't have certain tools that they need. How to hold space, how to carry a room, how to be the king in the room and have, you know, like connect with people the way that you want to, how to have a communication with maybe your spouse or girlfriend. And the way that he said it when it comes to like sexual things, but it could be anything, is he literally said you stand 12 feet apart and you just tell them so like, for example, with Haley in that situation, when this comes up for me again, something I'd like you to do, Nick, is, and then she tells you.
Yeah.
And then you don't even respond to it. Then you say, when I am in a situation where here's something I would like for you to do. And you do it back and forth for like way past the point of comfortable. He says do it for an hour, even when you're out of stuff to talk about in 5 minutes.
Sure.
Because it forces you to go, okay, what else could I do in that situation? It forces you to truly think. Now you're giving each other tools to help each other. And I think like we do that really well with certain relationships, and then other things we get. So if we haven't, again, that's part of like, for me, this is the work I'm doing. It's like I say, if you haven't done the work, and I'm referring to myself, like me doing this is me trying to get better at it, because it's like, okay, how can I in those moments not feel reactive and do a better job of like understanding? And so, you know, one of the coaches right now, it's all the work I'm doing is how to be responsive instead of reactive. And it's like feeling your ass in the chair, feeling your feet on the ground. You do these things as the fight is happening or as the emotion's coming up, or like certain breathing patterns, so that you just have time to keep yourself in it and be able to have a response where all that people are saying when they're freaking out at you is like, I don't feel safe. I don't feel seen.
Yeah.
Like I need help. And instead we internalize it as like, I'm not good enough. I've let this person down. This person thinks I suck. You know?
In sex in particular, I think having the conversation outside of sex is wildly important.
In the moment stuff.
Listen, like a girl doesn't want to like give you play by play.
No.
And
Dude,
vice versa.
I saw a meme the other day on Twitter. I just have to say this. The girl's like, I'm never going to be the same. She's like, I was doing doggy with my boyfriend. I turned around and he waved at me. I don't know why that just came to me, but it was just funny. I had to share.
It feels like something I would probably do.
Yeah, so stupid. I was just laughing. I was like, you know, sometimes we don't have the moves figured out.
We don't. Sex for me, I told Haley this when we first started dating. I said, if I can't date somebody who can laugh in the bedroom, it's just not going to work, because sex is... It's awkward sometimes. It's weird. There's weird sounds. There's weird smells. Like you got to be able to laugh about it at times. Otherwise, you take it too seriously, and it's not going to go right.
Yeah, no, dude. It's funny, the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives that came out. You know, the whole reason I had Taylor Paul on my podcast the first time is I wanted to show that you could have like open sexual dialogue and it wouldn't make you a bad person. And so I had her on because she was doing that on her TikTok with Mom Talk, and I really appreciated that. And then a week after I had her on, it came out she was swinging and really destroyed their whole marriage. I'm like, God, this could not have backfired worse. Like the one thing I was trying, well, my point of all this is I think you and I agree on this, but like the Mormon Church, the LDS Church, does so many things so well, but sexual shame is the one thing they just don't do well at.
Awful.
And so my whole thing was like, okay, this is an opportunity. And so like when we even having this conversation, I think it's really healthy for people to hear, like, you know, more just the less shame we have around sexual things. I know for the program, we've had a lot of guys that have been able to overcome pornography. It's been a big one. You know, and things like that. And a big piece of that is to eliminate the shame.
Yes.
And it's funny in that case, because I'm like, God, I think the church was right on this one. Like, maybe you shouldn't be that open with it, because that sure went south in a hurry. But anyway, no, it was just kind of funny. But anyway, and so having these conversations, but that's what's cool about like our group. That's what's cool about our friendships, is we're having the tough conversations.
Yeah.
And like, it's the only one. Here's the other part is once you've started having deep conversations, good luck in your relationships if you don't.
100%.
You want nothing to do with the surface bullshit. And that's where it gets hard, because you love them the same. But people that are uncomfortable talking about uncomfortable things, it makes it really hard to go deeper and to connect on that level.
There was a buddy of ours who sent me a text the other day, and he said something that really hit me hard. He said, you know, it's really hard to have good friends and to find and curate good friends when your main relationship, meaning marriage, is falling apart. And I was just, like that. And as I have looked back on my own life and on people that I know, I think that is absolutely valid. I think it's really hard to be a good, close friend if your the person who should be your absolute best friend is that when that's not good. I think it's difficult.
Yeah, no, that's a deep comment from him. I think that's the importance, though, of honestly just being proactive about building those relationships while things are good, or before you get into those relationships, or even if things aren't going good. I just think it's effort. And obviously, if 90% of your effort's going to save your marriage, it's hard to put any effort into your friendships, right? And like there is something that's going to suffer. But ultimately, you know, we have to build those. That's why I've had so many friends over the years, dude, that once they got married, they forgot what the hell it looked like to be a friend. They absolutely threw me away. And it's like, it's fair, like whatever, you chose your person. But I think the people that, like the guy that sent you that text, that feel that, it's because they abandoned those close friendships when they got into their marriage. They forgot what it meant. You can't take a deposit out of something you haven't been putting, or you can't withdraw something you haven't been putting deposits in. Yeah. And so he went to pull from the well and he went, oh, there's nothing there. It's because he wasn't putting in those deposits.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think like the key is just constantly be putting in deposits. Even when you don't have much to give, you give it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, do you want close friends? And by the way, I don't think you need 10 close friends, but you need 1 or 2.
You do.
I would say 2 in case one dies or something happens to one, like, you know, or like somebody goes through their own crisis or whatever.
And you have to make it a priority. Like, and I think in a marriage, it's important for the marriage, like not just for the, like friendship for the person is vital, but it's important for the marriage for the guy to have close friends and for the woman to have close friends. So they can be like, hey, you're going to go be with your friends tonight. I'm going to be with my friends tonight, or we're going to do stuff with our friends. Those relationships are absolutely vital.
Well, think about how many times we have sacrificed, or not even sacrificed, but like just made the time to go on a trip or to spend that time together. We know what it means, right? Like I know. And I'm always still flattered that you guys come, that you want to come and we do this. Like, I'm the single guy. It's pretty damn easy for me to get away and do these trips, right? I'm going anyway. Like, and you guys basically say, Jimmy, plan this shit. We'll be there. But, you know, but like, I'll never forget like the time in Honduras sitting in the hot tub. And one thing that we're able to say changes the attitude of how we see each other and like for the better. Or, you know, when you're taking a drive through freaking Africa and all of a sudden you're there for each other, or you're in Iceland or Ireland or some of these places we've been able to go, and you're having the perfect conversation the person needed to have. And the point of that is like, it's never a good, convenient time to go do it. I know how much you have to sacrifice being a plastic surgeon to go and spend that time, right? And I know how much, you know, like Ben, for example, like he has to, it's his budget for the year for travel to come on those trips with us.
Yeah.
But he makes the effort and the time. And we've all had these breakthrough life moments in that time. And so many people, they forget about the friendships. And then when they need it, they can't figure out why they don't have that connection. Like we've put those deposits in when we needed to. Yeah. And then when we go to withdrawal, it's pretty damn easy. It's there 100%.
Yeah.
Speaking of travel, we had the chance just a couple months ago to go climb with the gorillas. And dude, like, that really was like a spiritual experience. I'm glad we didn't do it as an adventure trip with the group because it wasn't quite enough adventure to keep 40, 50 guys, but it was more one of those just sacred experiences. So many takeaways to just see them in their natural environment.
Oh, it's so cool. First of all, I'm glad we did it twice. We were all like not wanting to do the second day because we absolutely got murdered that first day having to hike. We climbed into the
impenetrable forest. It's literally called the impenetrable forest, and we penetrated it. So
we absolutely did. I took away a pretty significant lesson that really hit me hard. When we went that first day, we hiked for what, like 8 miles total just to find these guys, and none of us knew what to expect. Right, like. We finally come around the corner, and I see a 300-pound gorilla 80 feet up in a tree. And I didn't even know they climbed friggin' trees.
I didn't either. I was shocked to see it up there.
No
By the way,
idea.
80 pound. It was like a 300-pound gorilla.
No, 300-pound gorilla.
Oh, I was like, yeah, sorry.
Like 80 feet
Got
up
it.
in a tree.
Yeah. I'll pay attention.
The baby gorilla was 80 pounds.
Yeah. No, I think it was ginormous.
And so the thing that really hit me is we then go and they kind of get you around where these gorillas are sitting, and they're just kind of eating and relaxing after a nap. And they're all it was the most family experience you've ever seen, right? Like at one point, this gorilla is just like laying on the ground. He could not, and he was the silverback. He could not care less. There's two little teenagers fighting in front of him. There's like the mom feeding the baby. And I'm standing there with one of our guides, and he was talking about this silverback gorilla. And he said he's the alpha of this group. And so all of these gorillas, there's, I think, only a couple thousand of them in the world, of the mountain gorillas. And they all live in that region, Congo, Rwanda, Uganda. And they all travel in these packs that are families. And each pack is led by an alpha gorilla, usually a silverback. And he's laying there. And I said, so is he the alpha because he's the strongest? And the guide looks at me and says, no. He's not the alpha gorilla because he's the strongest. He is the alpha gorilla because every decision he makes is to protect the family. He never makes a decision that will put the family in danger or in jeopardy. And the second that he does, another gorilla will feel compelled to rise up and challenge him for position of the alpha. And that's what really makes him the alpha, is his ability to protect his family. He's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, he's not the meanest. He can be, but it's because he's in integrity and he chooses what is the best decision for the family at all times. That for me was like the best decision, like the best description of alpha ever.
Well, it's so mistaken in today's world too. It's like you have, on one side, you have society trying to make men look weak and be weak and everything else. On the other side, you got the red pill audience, that's trying to, it's demeaning to members of the family and the community and things like that. That really is such a beautiful definition.
The guy who coined the term alpha spent the rest of his career trying to discredit what it was because he was wrong. So he was following wolves. I can't remember if it was in Yellowstone or somewhere like that. He was following a pack of wolves, and he wrote an entire paper on the alpha wolf. And he had the leader of the pack as the alpha wolf, the guy at the head of the pack. And as they study these wolves more, it wasn't the guy who was at the head of the pack who was the alpha and in charge of this pack of wolves. It was the one in the back. And the wolf in the back of the pack was actually the alpha. He was making sure that nobody got left behind, that there were no stragglers, that everybody was okay, that everybody was safe. And he was actually the alpha, not the one leading the way. And it's just interesting because now like this whole phrase has become this sort of demonized phrase to use when if you really understand it, it's a beautiful saying. Like to be alpha has nothing to do with like big, strong, testosterone-injected masculinity. It's integrity and doing the right thing.
That's beautiful.
That's it.
That's beautiful, man.
Well, let's get wrapping up here. I don't do these long-ass podcasts. I think Rogan and Huberman are the two guys that have figured out how to get people engaged in a long-form podcast. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't listen. I mean, look, I don't have time to listen to a ton of podcasts. No. So I listen to about every fourth Joe Rogan podcast if it's interesting to me. And usually I get about halfway through. It's not that I don't want to listen. I just don't have time.
No, it's just long.
Yeah. And then I'm just researching whatever guests I'm about to have on.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Look, there's plenty of podcasts if you want to listen to either of us. You got plenty of time.
Fair enough. Give me some parting words of advice from Mr. Jimmy Rex on the 100th episode of The Naked Patient.
Dude, 100th episode, man. It's no small achievement. It's what I say on anything. When people want to be successful in life and you have to fall in love with the monotonous routine. It's being consistent. I mean, you have 100 episodes. You've kept doing this. As a plastic surgeon, every hour you take out of the operating room is costing you thousands of dollars. So your podcast, and I tell everybody the same thing, like do it in a way that you enjoy it. You clearly enjoy it. You wouldn't still be doing it. It's costing you way too much money to do it. And so the bottom line is like there's so much commendability in you getting to 100. It really is. It should be celebrated. It's why I made the time I wanted, you asked me if I'd be the 100th episode. Hell yeah, because it's really cool. It's the consistency. You've put in the effort and you've consistently done this. And that's all success in life is. Your podcast is a success because you've been consistent. Your practice is a success because you've been consistent. And so my only advice to people is like, fall in love with the program, the process of it, because in the middle of the process, sometimes it feels like this damn thing's never going to get legs, or I'm never going to get rich, or I'm never going to get married, or whatever the thing is. But when you fall in love with that process, then eventually it hits and you look back and you go, damn, that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so that's, it's awesome, man.
Beautiful. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Love you, man.
Love you too, buddy.
Thank you so much for listening to The Naked Patient Beyond the Operating Room. I'm Dr. Nicholas Howland. Please remember that every patient who appears on this podcast has consented to discuss their story and their surgery on the podcast. That way we remain HIPAA compliant. This is a free podcast. The best thing that you can do for us is to leave us a review online. Let us know what you liked. Let us know what you'd like to hear. Let us know how we can improve. If you are curious about anything related to plastic surgery, you can reach out to me on Instagram at Dr. Nicholas Howland, and I typically respond there, or you can reach us at the office at 801-571-2020, or we have an online form you can fill out at the website, www.howlandplasticsurgery.com. Any of our coordinators would be happy to help you. Thanks again for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Naked Patient Podcast. Stay tuned for the next episode. Till next time.